Good day, everyone. This is Piney Noodles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and on the tabletop. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
Hey now, everybody. How's it going?
Hello there, Draculetta. Is everything going fine in the wonderful state of Barovia?
Not too bad at all, actually. The peasants got a day off today, so they're all happy, so it's good.
Ah, the peasants got a day off. They're fun. All right, then. I heard that you're having some trouble with those thunder mages out there.
Yes, other than that, yes.
Very well. Well, they're having their fun little picnic breaker out there. Let's see what's in the news for this week. And I heard that there is something coming a little visible.
Yes, we are getting cloaks in DDO.
Ooh.
Yay, I guess.
Maybe.
Yay? I'm not sure how I feel about this, actually, but I know a lot of people are excited about it. People have been wanting cloaks in DDO since pretty much day one. Well, that day is coming soon. Equipped cloaks, like equipped helmets, will have a visual appearance on your character. You can also equip cosmetic cloaks in the same way you can equip cosmetic helmets and armor. So if you find a cloak you like, you can use a mirror, you can cosmetic make a copy of it, and you can have the cosmetic version of the cloak. There's a little fact on the forums. When do I get visible cloaks? The answer is when it goes live. They didn't say when, other than they're shooting for update 40 is what the target date is. So we'll see if they can actually stand to that target date of update 40.
All right.
So when it goes live, there's going to be a couple things that you're going to need to know. Most equipable cloaks in the game is going to gain an appearance. Both new and existing copies of the named cloaks will have static appearances. The ones you already have in your inventory or your banks will be updated automatically. New copies of random loot gen cloaks will have randomized appearances. Randomized appearances have a variety of patterns and color combinations, with simpler ones dropping in the lower level treasures and some more complex designs in the higher level treasures. Existing copies of random loot gen cloaks will not be given an appearance. Sorry.
Oh, okay. In other words, they're randomly selected to be transparent cloaks.
You could look at it that way.
Well, you can't look at it because they're transparent.
Oh, I see what you did there now, finally. The question was asked, do named cloaks have unique appearances? Some named cloaks, especially the low-level ones, will have very basic appearances that might match what you can pull in the loot gen version. In many cases, named cloaks may share similarities with the randomized ones, but on most of them, they're in a color combination or a pattern you would not be able to find in the random loot, and a handful of named cloaks will have an entirely unique appearance. So yes, there's going to be some unique looking cloaks out there. Then the question was asked, how do cosmetic cloaks work? When the cloaks go live, you will be able to use mirrors of glamoring on equipable cloaks, both random and named, the same way you can with helmets and armor. And then this goes into the new cosmetic cloak slot that will be added, of course, when this goes live. Additionally, there may be some cosmetic cloaks around in the store, remnant vendor, events, and other places in the future.
How much do you want to guess is that there is going to be a cosmetic cloak or two that's going to be with the pre-orders for Sharn?
I would bet you were correct when you say that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure one of the tiers, you're going to get a cloak with Sharn. That's probably a pretty safe bet to make. See, equipping a cosmetic cloak in the cosmetic cloak slot works more or less as you'd expect. It will override the appearance of your equipped cloak. I don't want to see these things. How do I turn them off? Tentatively, you should be able to turn the visible cloaks off in the same way you can turn visible helmets off via your inventory UI. So if you know how you do it now, you open up your character, you see your inventory UI, you click, your helmet goes off, it goes back on. Same thing with your goggles. So they are tentatively planning to make cloaks work in the same way.
Okay.
Aren't these things technically capes? Well, if you want to get technical, perhaps. We're doing our best to make sure it's going to look good, combined with DDO's wide variety of armor, robes, outfits, and docents.
Okay, so that means... Yeah, because the ones in Lotros do tend to look a lot like capes rather than cloaks.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's what these are going to look like too, but I guess we'll see. And then they also said on Cordovan's Wednesday live stream that they will be fully animated. There is one animator that I guess is painstakingly animating these cloaks. So when you run, it's going to flap behind you. When you're free falling with Featherfall, the cloak is going to float in the wind behind you. So they're going all out for these. So I guess we'll see.
And now that usually means that you can expect then the possibility that raid leaders will ask you to turn cloaks off.
I kind of wondered about that.
I know that happens a lot in Lotro.
Because I wonder if this is going to cause some lag, so we'll see. But I bet probably when you're raiding, you're probably going to have to turn them off. Especially if it's happening in Lotros, since the games are so similar engine-wise. I mean, they're sort of similar. I guess there's some differences, but yeah, so if you're excited about cloaks, they're coming, targeting for update 40.
Update 40, assuming something weird doesn't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I am really not that excited about cloaks. I guess I never thought about it. I mean, I guess if there would be like a cool one or something, I might have it on, but I'm not jumping up and down with joy over this.
Well, when you can see that in Lotro, I tend to have my cosmetic cloaks on only when I'm in the coldest areas. In other words, I use a cloak that looks nice and furry and warm, and then I turn it on when I'm in a cold place, such as in some place in the far north or up in a high mountain or something like that. And so therefore it'd be nice to have them on for the Tower of Frost if I could find a nice furry one.
Well, there you go. That's right. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of cloaks they come up with. Like I said, if they have some cool looking ones, sure, I'll use one.
Well, then let's then head into the DDO Chronicle 298 and trying to say what would have all these gins in it.
That is from one of the new quests, I do believe. And again, I can't remember which one because I haven't ran them that much, but I'm pretty sure that's from one of the new quests. Hey, Perky just joined us in the chat, and he says, cloaking fields are activated. You are correct, sir.
All right, what's in the Chronicle?
In our community spotlight, DDO Cast is back. They have episode 529, and Patrick interviewed Sev and Torque about White Plume Mountain, the melee survivability changes, enhancement trees, and more. So click over and listen to that show. That was a really good episode.
Ouch!
And, Patrick always does a good job when he has devs on in his interviews. So listen to it. And what are you ouching about?
Perkysaurus said he's dead, Jin.
Oh, Perky, you and your humor. I tell ya. Psycho Blonde is a longtime DDO player who has been on the Mournlands and Players Council and is starting to stream on Twitch. So click over and check out Psycho Blonde's Twitch channel. In our fan site news section, Streaming with Eben and crew are still flagging for Shroud Palooza. So check it out as they go running with the devils. We got a shout out for last week's episode. Bring Me the Head of Vecna. D&D Night on DDO Stream is back. So check over and watch that episode as we successfully found a cure for Annabelle, but had unintended consequences in doing so.
Oh.
There's always unintended consequences. Baklagor is on episode 95 of His Buddies on Ice. Click over and watch that. Doug Glendower, of course, is running a Bard's Life. Click over and watch his latest episode. Drim Tom is finishing up the Falconer Tree. And, of course, Mickey is raiding in week 87. And, of course, we can't forget about our Chronicle comment of the week. This week's question gives you a choice.
All right.
Would you rather wake up stuck in a giant spider web or tied to a tree in an ogre camp?
Those aren't exactly the most powerful choices to have to make.
True. Which one is a little bit less worse than the other?
I would say it probably depends on the equipment you've got at the time.
True.
Well, I suppose if you're Batman, you'll have the right equipment no matter what. If you could reach your utility belt in either of the cases.
It's true. You know, this is kind of a tough question. I would probably say the spider's web because I think it would be less painful than what happened to you in the ogre camp.
Yeah, most likely because probably.
So my answer, I'm going with spider web. That's a tough question this week, though.
I better go to it, but yes, they're numbing. Usually they have a numbing substance so that you don't feel what they're doing to you as they're killing you.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I thought of. At least you'd be numb. Comfortably numb, Pine Leaf, is the way to go.
Numb as you get sucked to death.
That's right. Comfortably numb. And we have our screenshot of the week. Dragonoia takes a leap of faith off of her guild airship in the 380th DDO screenshot of the week. That's a pretty cool shot.
Okay. You mean you're allowed to jump off of your guild airship?
I would suggest you having feather fall, but yeah, you can. You mean you've never jumped off the guild airship before?
No.
Yeah.
I guess I always thought that either A, that there would be invisible barriers to prevent it, or B, is that the inevitable result will be a sound of splat on the bottom of the concrete.
Without feather fall, yes. Splat City. Try it. Next time you're on a character that has feather fall, go on to the guild airship and jump. And it depends which side of the airship you jump off, where you will end up.
What? One side puts you in Storm Reach and the other side puts you in the Forgotten Realms?
Not quite that bad, but you do end up in different spots depending on where you jump off, at least in my experiments with such things.
You've actually done it enough times that you're able to determine.
I have probably jumped off an airship at least 15 times.
Okay.
Maybe more, but yes. I mean, I didn't keep detailed notes about where I landed, but there were some different spots that I ended up. Yes, Perky, gravity is such a heavy subject.
Yes. Let's head into our store sales. Dracula, what's on sale this week?
There is some pretty good stuff. You have 20% off Tomes of Learning, select low-level adventures, +2 ability tomes, and character slots. So if you want to feed your alt addiction, this is your sale, 20% off. And also, don't forget, it is double bonus points now through September 9th. So if you're going to buy some points, now's the time to do it. You get those good double bonus points. And of course, our sample of the week is kind of timely. I think they did this on purpose. A mirror of glamoring. You'll get one of those mirrors when you use the coupon code COSCOPY. COSCOPY. And that is now through September the 6th.
All right. And it sounds like that Perkysaurus has found that there are some perks from being the only person in the show chat.
Did you think that up, or were you saving that? That sounds like you have been holding on to that for a while because he hasn't been in the chat recently. So I think you've been holding on to that one.
Well, no, I only thought of it a couple minutes ago. So.
Well played, sir.
Okay, let's see what's on the tabletop. And it sounds like that Renegade Game Studio is going to have Ghostbusters, the card game.
That's right. Who you gonna call? Renegades Games, of course, bringing Ghostbusters, the card game, to tabletops everywhere. In the card game, players are gonna head out to find and trap the most ghosts they can, while of course avoiding being slimed. Players will draft cards representing the Ghostbusters and their gear, ultimately seeking to collect a set of ghosts to score points. The game is going to come with 108 cards and a score pad. Ghostbusters, the card game, is intended for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. Will play in about 30 minutes, and it has a very low MSRP of $20. This game will be available later this year. It's Ghostbusters, the card game from Renegade Game Studio.
And is this based on the old version or the new version?
Judging by the looks on the mock-up for the box cover, it looks like it's based on the cartoon version.
On the cartoon.
Which was called The Real Ghostbusters, if you'd like to know.
The Real Ghostbusters?
It's a really long story. There was like 2 cartoons, and then there was a lawsuit, and then there was the Ghostbusters, and then the real It's a long, complicated lawsuit story.
Of course. It's always complicated lawsuit stories.
Exactly.
Let's go and see what our week was like in gaming this week. And what were you up to?
Well, not a lot, really. DDO, of course, I played with you, so I'll let you talk about that. And the static group I have with Tay and Rent, we did the second part against the Slave Lords. So we did Secrets of the Slaver's Stockade. And this was the first time that Tay and Rent have ran through the Slave Lords. So I wasn't saying anything at all. And when we got to the part with the bear, they were cracking up laughing. The roar. Yeah, they were laughing. They laughed for probably about 5 minutes because I knew it was coming up, and I had to bite my tongue to not say anything to not spoil it. So, yeah, well worth the many deaths we had getting there because we're doing it on hard, and wow, it's hard, especially when you're under geared and our characters are not the best anyway. We're working on them, but yeah. So love that quest. So we're gonna finish up Slavers probably this week, and then I have no idea what we're gonna do next, but I guess we'll see. And then video game wise, I jumped in back into Conan Exiles. It's been a while since I've talked about this, and it's kind of one of those games I jump into and I play for a little bit, and then I realize, okay, number 1, I have no clue what the hell I'm doing, and number 2, everything wants to kill me. So I kind of jump in, play for a little bit, die a bunch, and then I jump back out. So one of these days I'll actually figure out Conan Exiles and actually play it, but yeah, we'll see. And then I played Pathfinder Kingmaker some more. Of course, that is the upcoming computer role-playing game based on the Pathfinder universe. So it's the first computer RPG for Pathfinder. It's in early alpha right now. You can see why it's in early alpha.
Yeah. Oh, that bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's some issues, but they are working on it a lot, and there's always new builds. So I mean, they're actively in development. Eventually I'm gonna have a review of it, and eventually I'm gonna have some video and stuff of it too, but right now they don't want you to take any video or anything. But my first impressions, it needs some work, but I give them credit. They are working on it. Just last week there was like 3 new builds in like just 2 or 3 days, so they're actively fixing problems that people are finding on the alpha. So the alpha is working, and it's shaping up to be a pretty good game.
Well, if they're calling it alpha, then all right, they are properly calling it alpha. That's
Yes, it really is an alpha.
Yeah. If you don't want to see bugs, don't play anything that labels itself alpha.
Exactly. I knew going into it what I was going to get because it is an alpha. So, I mean, I'm not shocked that it's in this. Like I said, I give them credit. It's in a pretty good state, really. I mean, there's just a few things. I ran into one like game breaking thing, but they fixed that right away. And then I just had to redo that quest over, and then I could actually complete it and finish it and move on. So it was great. So yep, so look for a review of that and some videos at some point whenever I can actually release it. They said probably pretty soon they'll allow some of that stuff out, but that's Pathfinder Kingmaker.
Well, they probably don't want you to put out anything that was recorded in the very early stages if it was really
exactly
bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do not want, because they don't want people getting the wrong impression, which I can see they're point of it totally. Then over on the tabletop, I played When in Rome. Of course, you might remember us talking about that. We interviewed them at Gen Con. That is the world's first tabletop game designed around the Amazon Echo device. Notice I didn't say her name because I don't want mine waking up. But you will use your Echo or your Fire tablet, whichever you have that person's name equipped on. And you can play the game. It's a trivia game of the world. You will fly around the world and you're trying to collect the most points. And then also at certain stops along the way, there are souvenirs that will randomly get added. And then you go to that city. And then if you answer the trivia question correct about that city, you will get the souvenir. And the souvenirs are worth 7 points. So you really want to go for the souvenirs because it will really help rack your points up. Really fun. Really enjoyed it. I found out I know nothing about the world. My friend wiped the floor with me. The final score was like 37-5 or something like that. I mean, it's some really hard. There's some really, really hard questions. So look for a full review of When in Rome coming soon. My only concern with it is, and I have to go back and watch the video that I did with the Sensible Object guys, because I can't remember if I asked them this question in the interview or not. My only biggest concern with the game is I'm not sure how much replayability there's going to be, because I don't know how many questions there are. So I'm just worried, if you play the game like 25 times, I'm just throwing a random number out there. Are you going to know the questions? Because are they going to start repeating a lot? So I guess we'll see.
Well, isn't that the trouble with any trivia game?
It is, and I was about to say it's not just them. That's like a trivia game issue. The other neat thing about it, though, besides it uses the Amazon Echo, in each city there is actually a local person that will ask the question, and it's in their dialect. They actually recorded people in those cities talking about their city and doing trivia and giving you little hints and information as you go along. And then another thing I forgot to mention, if you answer the question correctly, you make a friend in that city. And normally you can only fly to one city at a time, and they have to be interconnected on the board because there's flight paths on the board. But if you make friends and you have like a line of friends, like let's say you have like a line of 3 friends that go from one city to another city, you can actually fly all the way to the end of the line, so you can go through a couple cities by following your friend route. So that's another kind of nice little strategy thing too, especially if you're trying to get to one of the souvenirs that are out. You can kind of use your friends to get there quick before the other team. So yes, When in Rome, pretty fun trivia game. Look for a review coming soon over on DDO Players. And the only other thing I did on the tabletop is another thing we talked about at Gen Con. Content warning. The following section of the show may contain adult language and adult humor and may be offensive to some listeners. If you were offended by adult language and adult humor, you might want to skip ahead about 3 minutes into the show. You have been warned. Cover your ears, Pine Leaf. I'm about to say a bad word. I played Shit Happens, and boy, did it ever happen. Yeah, this is a new card game, adult card game, if the name didn't give it away. We did do an interview with them at Gen Con, as I said. The basic principle of the game is you have to rank situations from the worst to the shittiest, and you have 3 cards that you start out with, and each card has a misery index. And what you do with the 3 cards when you're dealt them, you lay them on the table in the order of their misery index. So let's say you have one that's ranked 10 on the misery scale. That would be your first card, so that's going to be in your column A. And then you have one that's ranked, say, 30. That'll be your second card in column B. And then let's say you have one ranked 50. Well, then that'll be in your third column, ranked C. And then what you do is then you draw a card, or the other person draws a card, and they read the shitty situation that is on the card. And it's random. They're either like dirty or non-dirty. It's just random. Like one of them was that I got locked out of my house naked. And then I had to rank that. Okay, so is that going to fall either between my A and B column, or is it going to fall between my B and C column? So is it going to be worse than like a disastrous haircut, which is ranked, I think it was like ranked 11 on the misery index. So that would be in my column A. So is locked out of your house naked, is it worse than that, or is it like the worst? And then you rank them in your lane of pain, what it's called, and you're trying to get the first one to 10 points wins. As I said, it's an adult game. There are some adult cards, very adult cards. Hilarious though, so much fun to play. So look for a review of that coming soon. That is, of course, from Games Adult Play. Shit Happens, the adult card game. So what about you, Pine Leaf? What were you up to?
Well, I must have missed that video. Now,
of course you did.
We will.
And I'm sure you just tuned out that whole 3 minutes as I was talking.
Let's then head into my week, where first of all, what I did with you, where on my halfling paladin, who was level 17, we did the Lord of Eyes, and after we did that, we headed to the harbor, where we ran Good Intention.
I always forget how much I really love that quest until I run it,
Yeah.
and then I remember it's like, God, I love this quest.
And I
fun.
had forgotten that was where you first meet a certain squirrel.
Is that the first time you meet him?
At least the first time I remember.
Maybe it is.
Well, actually, okay. I'm from the time of release is the first one I remember, because the Tower of Frost was released after this, but you will probably play the Tower of Frost earlier.
Right, true.
But
yeah, I'm just
are there
trying
other
to think.
places where you run into that squirrel?
And that's what I'm trying to think. It seems like there is, but now that I'm actually thinking about it, no, actually, I don't think there is. And Standing Stone, if you're listening, FYI, we need a Nibbles creature companion. Just saying.
A Nibbles creature companion. I'm sure that'll come up with that. Okay, that is the highest tier of the Skarn of the Sharns.
There you go.
Of the Sharn expansion, yes. Then on my own, I ran with my Dragonborn, where I was out in the 12, and I ran Memory Lapse, and this was for my YouTube series, and trying to remember how things were on there. Of course, it was, trying to remember how things were. Yes, I think it went pretty well in going through all there, and I think it didn't take me too long trying to remember, okay, now what do these sockets do now in order to to get you up? Then on the tabletop, or actually on Minecraft, first we'll go to Minecraft, then we'll look at tabletop. In Minecraft, I ran the Minecraft Parkour Challenge for September, and this month our challenge was to eat only pumpkin pie. So that of course meant you had to find the right ingredients for pumpkin pie and all that fun stuff, and then put them together, and that would become the food for the month on there. And for my Atomic Island series, I started working on the actual build for the periodic table. So I got, I would say, about a third of the left side done, maybe, or something like that. It's going to be a huge build, because the entire build will take, when finished, 256 by 128 blocks.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so we're talking about 32,000 blocks in all there. So yeah, it's a huge, and of course it's in the middle of this very hilly desert, so therefore there are a number of places where I will have to take down a lot of hills and go through a lot of shovels in order to do that. Then on the tabletop, I first ran Oniram. First I decided to test out how Oniram plays two-handed, because all my Oniram games, of course, have been one-handed in the past. So I thought, all right, let's see how two-handed goes, and let's see how it differs from the standard way of doing it. And I find it quite a bit more, I had a lot of trouble with, so I found it quite a bit more challenging, because each player has to keep track of their own labyrinth, and each hand has to keep track with its own running through the doors, and I was constantly having to throw away cards and mismatch stuff and stuff like that. I found it a lot tougher than finding it when I'm playing it one hand. Now, it could be that because I'm trying to play two-handed with a single person, trying to keep track with both of them, of course, it may be part of the problem that I was having there. And then I went and played more Oniram games, this time back to one-handed. And first I decided to go back to the Happy Dreams Dark Premonitions expansion, try playing with that one. I wanted to go back to a couple of expansions where this year I lost my previous attempt at it. So I went into Happy Dreams and Dark Premonitions, and I just barely was able to squeak by with a victory for that. Then I played with the Towers expansion, and I guess I must have lost that one because when I came through this one, I came to the conclusion that maybe they really didn't intend us to play this one alone, because this one is a rather tough expansion because it has a lot of difficult things added to it, but nothing to mitigate. Most of them usually have something to mitigate the extra challenge they have into it, but the tower, okay, you could theoretically use a tower card, discard it, get it to look and reorder what's coming up in the deck, but compared to the pain it puts you through, I think that if you're someone who really needs more challenge to it, then maybe that's why it's there. Either that or they intend you to mix it with something else. Then after that, I decided, how would Onirim play if you attempted to use all 7 expansions at once?
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Have you ever played Onirim?
No, I have not.
No, I haven't. All right. Yeah, there are 7 different expansions in there. I thought, okay, let's see what happens if we throw in all of the expansions, which I'm pretty sure is not intended to be...
Well, probably not.
...done all together in there. And you wind up with this very, very thick deck, and you have to remember all the different rules to all 7 expansions. And whenever I play with an expansion I haven't played in a while, I always have to refresh myself on the rules. So the first 2 times, within about 3 or 4 turns, I noticed that there was this big error I made because I forgot a major rule to one of the expansions. But on the 3rd time, I finally was able to avoid all those big mistakes, went through the game, and actually won comfortably, because yes, you have all these bad things, but you also have the good things that are being added to it. And the nightmares, they're pretty much diluted because you have about twice as many cards as you usually have and the same number of nightmares. So the nightmares, I pretty much didn't even feel them through that run, and that is the first time I could really say that during a game of Onirim. So yes, I think, I really didn't intend you to do this, and it actually made the game easier, and I was surprised. I thought it would throw things at me that were impossible to do, but nope.
That's what I was about to ask. So you think it made it easier?
I think putting them all together made it easier because it diluted the number of the nightmares that were there, and it also allowed me to build up a pretty hefty discard pile. And the first expansion is such that the discard pot, whatever's inside the discard pile, can be used for casting spells, and that these spells can make things a little bit easier, but you do have to finish everything in a particular order, and being able to finish 12 doors all in a specific order is a little bit of a challenge going in there. But because I had a large number of items in my discard pile, I was able to, on several occasions, I think on 3 occasions, I was able to swap a pair of doors in the goal list, so that a door that I was easily able to create, I was able to do it then and postpone when I had difficulty coming up with. So that was Onirim. And then finally, I picked up, after a bit of a break, the Lord of the Rings living card game. And in this one, I did that because I was on the BGG forum for LOTR card game, and they said that apparently this month, I really tune in on them at the right time, that they're going to have a little solo challenge to see if you could beat 3 quests in the Mirkwood cycle during the month of September.
Oh, nice.
All right, that sounded like it. Have you ever played LOTRCG?
A long time ago when it first came out.
All right, so 3 scenarios. One of them is from the base set, and the other 2 were from the blister packs. Now, I looked through the list of them. It so happened that because when I started playing the game, the Mirkwood cycle was mostly out of print, I only had 3 of them, and of course, the 2 that they were doing from the cycle that were from the blister packs were, of course, ones I didn't have. So I ordered those, and I was waiting for those to come in. I built a preliminary deck, took it up against Journey through the Journey down the Anduin, and I was ripped to that troll that you get at the beginning of that just tore me completely to pieces. Whack, 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 Right. So obviously my deck needs a little bit of tuning in there. The cards I got to order, the blister packs arrived today. I did a little adjustment to the deck with those. So we'll see if this new deck is able to hold off, but I'll have to find that out during the coming week and see if that comes out any better. But that was my first time in playing the Loto card game in a while. I also ran through the tutorial and first quest of the video version of the game, which is very different. You could, it's one of those things where you have, okay, this is what's similar, this is what's completely different. So you, right, because they're a different set of quests is first off, and you also, of course, there are also similarities, like you do run to a lot of spiders during the first quest here also. That's something that you definitely have in common with that one. But what you're trying to do is different, and I guess they're trying to come up with different campaigns, so if you're familiar with the card game, it's not going to look too familiar in there. And I went through there, and this one looks like it has 3 sections like most of the adventures that you tend to run into in the card game. And I'm going through the first section 1. All right, that's all I scratched there. They get the second section, and I just get by the second section in, and that's when I hit the 50 mark for Sauron hits 50, and it goes, okay, you lose. So obviously I need a little work in there in order to better there, but that was my first attempt at playing the video version there. So I tried both versions of the game, and hopefully I'll get a better idea how it operates, and maybe I could have a comparison article in the near future to talk about how each of them are.
That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yes, I noticed that you were wondering. I got the impression that you were at least curious about it.
Yes, I am. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it or not. So
yeah, it is tricky because it is there is this thing about microtransactions and stuff like that.
That's exactly it, and they haven't really or weren't too clear on exactly how micro heavy it's going to be. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, some of the reviewers are really complaining about that and stuff like that, on how micro heavy it has its equivalent to sets you can buy, and they have their equivalent to Lotra points and stuff like, or DDO points, I guess, for the show.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's something you have to keep in mind. And when you win games, you get these victory points, and these victory points are what you use in order to buy things. Of course, you have, when they first put it out, it was really bad because they only unlocked the very first quest of the campaign, and I think they must have gotten a lot of complaints about that, because a day or two later they changed. Okay, we have decided to unlock all 5 the entire first campaign. Yes, that was.
What was your first clue?
Yes, and for those who have already purchased it, we will give you some points in return for that. So yes, they got a lot of complaints, and I think most of their bad reviews were related to not the gameplay, because a lot of the bad reviews said the gameplay is fine. It is those stupid microtransactions that
that's what I was afraid of.
Yeah. So when I get a better idea of all that, then maybe I could do a comparison article and stuff like that. But that'll probably take me time. Let's head into the donations. We currently have 20 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support DDO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast your choice, or a meet guest with us for an episode of DDO Players News. And there are new patron rewards coming next week. Or is that soon?
Soon, TM.
Soon, TM.
I'm saying next week, but soon.
And you could also email us at podcast@ddoplayers.com. You could also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance @PlayersAlly, DDO Players @DDO Players, Draculetta @Dracula_72, and Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles. You could also follow Drac on Twitch @Dracula_72, assuming you're twitching again.
Yeah, I need to get around to that again.
Yes, the Players Alliance has 4 shows every Monday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News. Every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Loto Players News. Every other Thursday at 9:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest. And on the first Tuesday of each month at 9:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Chromatic Bits. But unless you happen to be in our live show right now, you'll probably be too late to hear that one because I believe tomorrow is the first Tuesday of the month.
It is. You'll have to download the podcast version.
Yes, you can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com. And that's all for tonight. And this is Planet Needles reminding you to quest responsibly.